work together in the diaspora and there. And I think what Sister Esther has highlighted is very important, the fact that there are movements in the UK. I'm part of the Global African Congress, which was set up to look at reparations in particular. I know we've got a reparations summit coming up next month as well. So how is it that all these things are going on? How can we find better ways to link up? Because I do find that there's lots of things happening around Pan-Africanism, around reparations, and it's all quite disjointed. Different organisations, and it's actually one sort of movement. So I suppose I'm also asking, how significant is the role of reparations within the Pan-African movement as well?
And my question is, we talk of Pan-Africanism and the movement or the connection of Africans all over the continent, which Kwame Nkrumah, as you said, developed when we talk of Africa must unite. But when we look at Africa today, you mentioned that the fragmentation of Africa led to the development of slavery and gave the possibility for Africans to be enslaved. But when we look at the fragmentation of Africa, it's still there. The imaginary boundaries that are being given to us by the colonial masters are still there and being enforced by our leaders today. If I want to move to Senegal from Gambia, I need a visa. I need to show my identity as a Gambian. How do you think these things, Pan-Africanism, what do you think you can do to help, or what do we have to do to help to sort out these imaginary boundaries that are separating us from our brothers, that are separating us from even the economic connections we should have together?
So many of us, that is quite problematic, in fact. And in my humble opinion, the reason why the pacts are not effective, we are actually frustrated with the environment, is because these Pan-African Congresses don't really have an ideology. You see, we gained independence, and the whole African country, managed to shake itself off the shackles of colonialism because we had an ideology. We adopted and embraced an ideology for liberation, an ideology for unification, but unfortunately the subsequent pacts, and I mean after the fifth, have had no ideology. No particular ideology. So there's no direction, there's no guiding lights, really. And this is what pacts, the Pan-African Congresses need to do. We have to sit down and fashion an ideology. Some of us have even gone as far as to say, okay, why don't we adopt an ideology like Nkrumahism for this, since it is one of the ideologies that has made it possible for Pan-Africanism to have, let's say, an official or an institutional face on the continent with the creation of the Organization of African Unity. But let us sit and do that. The 8th PAC that will take place in Accra next month should actually have been a preparatory meeting to try and brainstorm. I mean, this is
the problem for the last
of course, which is unfinished business, But if we try and understand what's happening in many of our countries, we will not be so surprised. Unfortunately, my party is not in power. We are not in... We will. Of course we will. Of course we will. Yes, with hard work, perseverance. Yes, we will, and sincerity. But how are these packs organized as we speak today? What kind of governments are supporting them or making them happen? And if you study the actions of these governments, you will come to the conclusion that they are not Pan-Africanists. They are actually, if you want to be very precise, they are what we describe as new colonial governments, puppet governments. So it is impossible, or it's a contradiction, to organize a PAC, a Pan-African Congress, in the middle and heart of a government that is practicing the wrong policy. So this is, in a nutshell, this is the problem. You see, reparations Definitely. I mean, it's a must. We are relying on, you know, the different movements, reparations movement, to dialogue with us. Let us see how we can voice out these issues back home. Like our sister rightly said, and I think we also, we admit it, there is a slight disconnect between what our struggle, what we are doing back home and in the diaspora. I think we admit it, and I hope, I mean, this in our small, humble way, maybe gatherings like this just sound that alarm bell, you know, but we cannot work in isolation, in our little angles, and expect to get good results. And if I keep on going back to Ghana in the 60s and the independence movements, it's because they somehow surpass these challenges. You know, how come every significant black leader touched base in Ghana in the early 60s? You name them. You just think of every significant black luminary or dignitary was in Accra. The pictures are there, the records are there. How come? It didn't just happen. It didn't just happen. You know, it was born out of a government that believed that we have to link up and work together. We want to see that. We want to recapture that spirit. And we hope we can do it together with more dialogue. Yes, indeed, Kwame Nkrumah said, the paradox is that Africa is rich, but Africans are poor. Which makes us come to the conclusion that this must be partly self-inflicted. And, you know, I always urge, especially when I see a lot of young people, please become political and become active. Because we can talk from here till tomorrow. But if we don't influence decision making, nothing is going to change. Nothing is going to change. You see, everything must be politicized. Everything must be politicized. You see, we must reach decision makers. We must become decision makers, you know? People sitting in this room, we must become decision makers. Otherwise, we cannot implement those wonderful ideas that we are talking about. So let us get involved. We know what is at stake. We know where the problem lies. The problem lies with our decision makers. It is simple, you know. We need leadership which has the courage to say no.
Yeah.
Colonialism would not have ended if we didn't have that certain caliber of leadership that Esther was talking about. You know, leaders who could analyze, who could connect with the wider global movements, leaders who were selfless and who had the courage to sacrifice.
Yes.
You know, leaders who could not be bought. So we need that today as we speak. We need that as we speak. So let us support progressive political parties in Africa. It is very important that progressive Pan-Africanist political parties assume the leadership of our countries today, you know, because we know what the problem is. We all know it. You are studying, you are reading, you are observing, but let us take action and influence decision making. There are wonderful, on paper, wonderful proposals for economic, social, political integration. Have you seen the Lagos Plan of Action? It's a revolutionary document. If we only manage to implement a fraction of it, if we had managed to do that, and we were talking about 1980, we would not be where we are today. So we have, the plans are there, the wonderful suggestions are there, everything is there on paper. Why? We even started from the 60s. We were pioneers of unity. Who put down proposals for common monetary policy, central bank, common currency, African command? Who put down all these things? What was Europe doing in 1963? Let's look back at history. We are pioneers of unity.
We know that our political systems and our politicians design their politics based on tribalism. So if we have leaders that are thinking in that mind frame, how would they think of getting to the point of thinking Pan-African? When their elections and the ideas they stand for stands by the languages that their people speak and the language that the people don't speak, how do we expect those people to go beyond that border and start thinking Pan-African? I think one of the things we have to do, and it starts from here, the ones that are here in the UK, this is what I've been here for 10 years, I've observed one thing: we're not Pan-Africans. Nigerians are Nigerians, Ghanaians are Ghanaians, and Gambians are Gambians. And when we're here, I don't think we try to maximize the opportunities that we can actually maximize from. We're comfortable just staying with the social care and just being a nurse and the opportunities that are given to us instead of trying to get the opportunities that would empower us to go back home and awareness. Because I have my friends back home. I knew about Gambia when I came here. I know about Ghana when I came here. I know about myself coming here. Your dad left here, came here knowing Ghana more. Maybe if he was still left in Ghana, it probably wouldn't be the case. So I think us that are here and we have the opportunity to grab, no matter how small it is, I think we should take it. I think we should go back home, and there's so many young people out there, and we need to get this idea into their ears and let them understand that it's not about tribalism, it's about Africanness.
Like our sister says, go back home and change that. When you go, you can be here and you visit. And by the way, I don't want to, what's the word in English? I know the problems. I returned home after many years. I don't want to minimize the problems you have as an African in the diaspora trying to go back. I understand it perfectly. Yes, very often you are even regarded as a stranger. The way you talk, the way you dress, you know. So it is most unfortunate. But this is lack of proper education, lack of proper indoctrination almost, you know. That's serious, yes. That lack of knowledge of our history, our traditions, what we went through. We are a people who have suffered. We have suffered, and we are still bearing the consequences of this suffering. And we have to work. We have to work to undo that. You know, but you are young and beautiful and strong, so we can overcome that. You know, don't be afraid. Most of us, we've had plenty of challenges returning. Some places I go to and they say, oh, white. I'm thinking, white? How can I be white? This white, this Arab. You know, so we understand these challenges.